I was 7 the first time my parents left me alone overnight, and it's important you understand this wasn't negligence. This was rural Texas in the late 90s, outside a dying town called Runnels Crossing, where everyone knew everyone and the worst thing that ever happened was a dog getting hit on the highway. Our house sat at the end of a caliche road, surrounded by scrub oak and knee-high grass that hissed when the wind ran through it. No streetlights, no close neighbors, just the house, the land, and the sound of insects so loud it felt like static in your skull. My parents had a wedding to attend 2 hours away. They explained everything carefully. Frozen pizza in the freezer, flashlight on the kitchen counter. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't go outside after dark. They hugged me too many times. My mom hesitated in the doorway longer than necessary, like she'd forgotten something important but couldn't remember what. When their taillights vanished, the house felt bigger. Not emptier, bigger. As if the walls had quietly shifted outward, stretching, creating space that hadn't existed while adults were present. The ceilings seemed higher, the hallway longer. Sounds behaved differently. Every creak echoed twice. I did exactly what I was told. Pizza, cartoons, lights on. I dragged my blanket into the living room and camped on the floor, pretending it was an adventure. I remember feeling proud, grown, trusted. At 8:42 p.m., the bathroom door closed by itself. I noticed because I hadn't heard it open, just the soft, final click of the latch settling into place. The hallway light flickered once afterward, a brief dimming, like the house blinking. I stood there a long time, staring down the hallway. The bathroom door was at the end, partially visible past my parents' bedroom. I knew I hadn't gone in there since before dinner. I told myself it was air pressure, old hinges. Houses do things. Still, I didn't go check. By 9, the noises started. Not bangs, not footsteps, smaller sounds, shifting, a faint dragging like fabric brushing wood. It came from the other side of the house, the spare bedroom we used for storage. That room always felt wrong, even in daylight. The air was stale, heavy, and it smelled faintly like pennies. The dragging stopped when I muted the TV. I held my breath. From somewhere above me, inside the ceiling, something moved. Not scurrying, not animal fast. Slow, deliberate movement, as though whatever it was had joints that needed remembering how to bend. The sound traveled from one end of the house to the other, passing directly over the living room. Directly over me. I whispered hello without meaning to. The movement stopped. Then something pressed down on the ceiling hard enough for dust to sprinkle onto the coffee table. I screamed and turned the TV volume all the way up. The noise didn't return. For a while, everything felt normal again, or as normal as it could feel with the lights blazing and my heart pounding so hard my ribs hurt. At 10:13 p.m., the phone rang. Landline, the old kind with a cord. I stared at it until the ringing stopped. A minute later, it rang again. I picked it up on the third ring, already crying, already apologizing. No one spoke on the other end. I could hear breathing, shallow and wet, like air moving through something narrow. Then a child laughed. Not happy laughter, the quiet kind, held back, like someone trying not to be heard. The line went dead. I unplugged the phone and pushed it under the couch. That's when I realized the house was cold. Texas nights don't get cold like that. Not in summer. But the air had turned sharp, biting, and my breath fogged faintly when I exhaled. The smell from the spare room drifted stronger now, coppery, damp. I heard my name for the first time at 10:27. It came from the hallway, spoken softly, testing the shape of it. Wrong in subtle ways. The syllables stretched too long, the pitch sliding at the end like it hadn't decided how to finish. I didn't answer. The voice tried again, closer this time. I crawled under the blanket and squeezed my eyes shut so hard I saw stars. I prayed the way my grandmother taught me, whispering every word, afraid that if I spoke too loudly something would hear. Footsteps moved through the house. Bare feet, slow, wet. They stopped outside the living room. Something leaned down. I could feel the pressure in my ears, the sense of being observed so closely it was almost intimate. The blanket shifted slightly, tugged just enough to let air in. A finger brushed my ankle. It was cold. Too cold. The skin felt wrong. Smooth but uneven, like it had been worn thin. I kicked and screamed and scrambled backward, hitting the wall. The lights flickered violently, then went out completely. In the darkness, something breathed inches from my face. "Home," it whispered, and the words sounded like relief. I don't remember much after that. My parents say they found me the next morning sitting in the corner, eyes open, voice gone. The front door was wide open. Every window was unlocked. The spare bedroom door had been removed from its hinges and laid carefully in the hallway. They sold the house within the year. Decades later, I asked my father why they never stayed another night after that. He went quiet. Then he told me they had. Once, they woke to the sound of someone walking through the house, calling my name. From my bedroom, from under my bed, from inside the walls. I was 10 years old when my parents decided I was responsible enough to stay home alone after school. Not overnight, not at first. Just 3 hours between the final bell and the sound of my father's truck crunching into the gravel driveway. That was the rule. 3 hours. Daylight. Doors locked. Curtains open. Our house sat outside a town called Decker Prairie, north of Houston, where the woods thicken and the air smells like rot and rain even when the sun is out. The house wasn't old by Texas standards, built in the 70s, but it had a history no one liked to talk about. You could feel it the moment you stepped inside. The walls absorbed sound. The rooms felt occupied even when empty. My parents warned me about the back of the house. Never go into the utility room. Never open the crawlspace door. If you hear noises, turn on the TV. They didn't explain why. They never did. The first week alone passed quietly. I watched cartoons, ate cereal straight from the box, and sat on the couch with my feet tucked up, just in case something reached out from underneath. I felt watched sometimes, but I told myself that was just nerves. The second week, the house started answering back. It began with the radio. We didn't own one. I was in the kitchen pouring milk when I heard music drifting from the hallway. Low, warped. A country song slowed down until the singer's voice sounded stretched, drowning. The sound came from the utility room. I stood there a long time, milk overflowing onto the counter, staring at the closed door at the end of the hall. The handle trembled slightly, like someone breathing on it. The music shut off the moment I moved closer. I didn't open the door. I never opened the door. I sat on the couch and turned the TV up until my ears rang. At 4:11 p.m., I heard someone walking around in my parents' bedroom. Drawers opening, closet doors sliding, a belt buckle clinking softly against wood. I knew the sound of my parents' movements. This wasn't that. These steps were careful, curious, like someone learning the house. I shouted hello. The footsteps stopped. Then came the sound of something being dragged across carpet. Slowly, deliberately, I locked myself in the bathroom until my father came home. I didn't tell them. I didn't want to lose my freedom. The next day, the voices started. They came from the air vents, from the walls, from the space behind the shower tiles. Sometimes they sounded like my mother calling me for dinner. Sometimes they sounded like me. That was the worst part. Hearing my own voice whisper things I had never said. Come see. Don't tell. You forgot something. One afternoon, I came home and found muddy footprints leading from the back door to the utility room. Small, bare. They stopped inches from the crawlspace hatch. I didn't clean them. I didn't look away. I felt something on the other side of the door, pressed close, waiting. At 5:02 p.m., the house went silent. No AC hum, no insects outside, no distant highway noise, just silence so thick it felt padded. Then the crawlspace door creaked open. I was standing in the hallway when it happened. I watched the hatch lift slowly, millimeter by millimeter, as if whoever was opening it knew I was there and wanted me to see. Darkness spilled out. Cold air rushed across my ankles. Something inside shifted. A hand emerged. Too long, too pale. Fingers bent the wrong way. It gripped the edge of the floor and pulled. I ran. I didn't stop screaming until my parents found me at the neighbor's house half a mile away. barefoot, bleeding, hysterical. They went back to check the house. They told me nothing was wrong. Years later, after we moved, I overheard my parents arguing late at night. My mother crying, my father drunk. He said they shouldn't have left me alone. He said it was waiting for a child. He said it had lived under the house long before we moved in. I asked him what it was. He stared at me for a long time before answering. Whatever comes up when nobody's watching. That night, in my new bedroom, I heard something breathing through the floor. Slow, patient, remembering my name. I learned early that time behaves differently when you're a child left alone. Minutes stretch, sounds linger, ordinary houses grow teeth. I was 8 when my parents started leaving me alone at night while they worked double shifts at the refinery outside Port Arthur. It wasn't every night, just once or twice a week. They trusted me because I was quiet, because I followed rules, because nothing bad ever happened in our neighborhood. Rows of identical houses, floodlights, neighbors who waved but never talked. Our house backed up to a drainage canal choked with reeds and black water. At night it smelled like rust and rot. During the day you could almost pretend it was harmless. At night it spoke. The first evening alone passed without incident. The second, I heard someone walking outside my bedroom window. Slow steps, heavy, wet. I stayed perfectly still under my blanket, counting breaths, telling myself it was a stray dog. Then the tapping began, gentle at first, fingertips brushing glass. Tap, tap, tap. A shadow slid across the curtain, tall, too thin. I whispered for my parents. No answer. The tapping moved to the door. That was when I realized something important. The house had locked itself. Every door, every window. I tried the front door. Deadbolt jammed. Back door, same. The windows wouldn't budge. The house felt sealed, like a jar screwed tight. The footsteps returned, this time inside. They moved from room to room, exploring, pausing, listening. I hid in the hall closet, holding my breath as the handle turned slowly, testing resistance. It didn't open. Instead, the voice came. "You're early," it said. Not angry, not threatening, confused. The footsteps retreated toward the living room. Furniture creaked. Something heavy sat on the couch. The TV turned on by itself, filling the house with static. I watched the clock through the slats in the closet door. Time slowed. The second hand dragged itself forward like it was tired. At 9:33 p.m., the canal outside went quiet. No frogs, no insects, nothing. The TV clicked off. The footsteps returned, closer than before. The closet door bulged inward slightly, wood bending as pressure built on the other side. "You're supposed to sleep," the voice whispered. "They always sleep." The door splintered. Light flooded in from the hallway, and I saw it clearly for the first time. The thing that had been waiting. It wore my father's shape like a badly remembered costume. Arms too long, head tilted at an impossible angle. Its face shifted constantly, trying to settle into something familiar and failing. "I practice," it said proudly. I screamed until my throat burned. My parents came home early that night. They found me unconscious on the floor, the closet door torn from its hinges, deep scratch marks gouged into the walls. They never left me alone again. Years later, after the house was demolished to widen the canal, construction workers found something buried beneath the foundation. A narrow space carved into the soil, just big enough for a child, lined with claw marks, and a calendar scratched into the dirt. Every date circled, waiting. I was 9 when my parents left me alone during a storm, and even now, decades later, I can't hear heavy rain without feeling that same tightness in my chest. The sense that something is moving closer, hidden by the noise. We lived outside Wichita Falls, in a low, squat house built too close to the floodplain. The land behind it dipped into a shallow ravine where water collected and never fully dried. My father called it a drainage problem. My mother called it that place and refused to look at it after dark. The storm was supposed to be mild. Spring thunder, nothing more. My parents planned to drive 40 minutes to check on my grandmother and be back before midnight. I begged to go with them. My mother hesitated. My father said I'd be fine. They left at 7:18 p.m. By 7:25, the rain started falling sideways. At first it was comforting. The steady drumming on the roof, the flash of lightning lighting the walls. I sat on the couch with a blanket and watched the Weather Channel, feeling grown up and brave. The power flickered but held. The house creaked and popped as the temperature dropped. At 8:03, I heard someone knocking on the back of the house. Not on the door, on the wall. 3 slow knocks, deliberate, too evenly spaced to be debris. I muted the TV. The rain swallowed everything for a moment. Then the knocking came again, closer to the corner of the house where my bedroom was. I didn't move. The third time, it slid downward, knuckles scraping siding, until it stopped near the foundation. Something was outside. Lightning flashed, and for a split second I saw a shape pressed against my bedroom window. Pale, hairless, bent wrong, like it had crawled out of the ravine and wasn't meant to stand upright. The lights went out. The silence afterward felt alive. I turned on my flashlight and locked myself in the hallway bathroom. The rain intensified, a roar now, and underneath it I heard wet footsteps circling the house. Slow, careful, like whatever it was knew I couldn't see it anymore and didn't need to hurry. The knocking returned, this time from beneath the floor, from inside the walls. Water began seeping under the bathroom door, cold and muddy. It carried a smell with it, rot and metal and something old that had been buried too long. A voice bubbled up through the pipes. "Mama!" Sounded wrong, drowned, broken. I screamed and slipped, hitting my head against the sink. When I looked up, the mirror was fogged from the inside, handprints smeared across the glass, sliding downward slowly as if whoever made them was sinking. The house groaned. Something beneath the floorboards pulled itself higher. I heard nails tearing through wood, inch by inch, following the sound of my breathing. Then headlights cut through the rain. The sound froze. My parents found me curled on the bathroom counter, shaking so hard I couldn't speak. The floor was dry, the mirror clean. The power came back on like nothing had happened. The next morning, after the water receded, my father went into the ravine to check for damage. He came back pale and silent. Years later, after he'd started drinking, he told me what he found down there. Collapsed culvert. Inside it, scrape marks, and a child-sized space worn smooth by years of waiting, just beneath where my bedroom had been. I was 12 when my parents trusted me with an entire Saturday alone. Sunup to sundown, the longest stretch yet. We lived off Highway 87, south of Amarillo, where the land flattens into something so wide and empty it messes with your sense of distance. Our house sat by itself, a one-story ranch with a detached garage and a windmill that hadn't worked in years. When the wind blew just right, the metal creaked like it was trying to remember how to scream. My parents left just after dawn. I watched their car disappear in a cloud of dust and felt that familiar mix of freedom and unease settle in my stomach. The rules were the same as always. No answering the door. No going into the garage. No opening the storm cellar. The storm cellar sat behind the house, half buried, its metal doors rusted and bowed inward. I'd never seen it open. My father said the steps were unstable. My mother said nothing at all when it came up, just changed the subject. The morning passed quietly, too quietly. The wind died around noon, and the air grew thick and unmoving, like the world was holding its breath. Even the flies vanished. I noticed the silence only because of how complete it was. At 12:47 p.m., I heard the cellar doors move. Not open, just shift. Metal scraping against metal, slow and strained. I froze in the kitchen, sandwich halfway to my mouth, listening. It happened again. A low, patient creak, followed by a soft thump beneath the ground. I told myself it was the house settling, heat expanding metal, anything but what my instincts were screaming. I turned the radio on. The station faded in and out, voices warping, stretching until they became something like whispering. I twisted the knob, But no matter the station, the same sound leaked through, murmurs layered over one another, overlapping, excited. The windmill outside began to turn. It hadn't moved in years. Each rotation was slow, uneven, the blades catching with a metallic groan that vibrated through the wall. With every turn, the whispering on the radio grew clearer, more focused. They were counting. I shut the radio off and ran to my bedroom, slamming the door behind me. From there, I could see the backyard through the window. The storm cellar doors were no longer flush with the ground. They were open a crack. Darkness pooled between them, thick and absolute. Something shifted beneath it, just out of sight. The counting stopped. A voice rose from the cellar, thin and dry, like it hadn't been used in a long time. "Too old," it said. Another voice answered, deeper, layered with many others. "Still fits." I backed away from the window as footsteps circled the house. Not heavy, careful, testing the ground, as if whoever walked there wasn't used to open air. The doorknob to my bedroom rattled. Then came the scratching, nails on wood, slow, methodical, not trying to break in, just letting me know it could. The windmill shrieked as the blades spun faster. From beneath the house, something knocked 3 times. The cellar doors slammed shut outside, hard enough to shake the walls. Silence followed. When my parents came home at sunset, the windmill was still. The cellar doors were sealed. The house looked normal. They found me under my bed, unresponsive, clutching a handful of dirt that smelled like rust. Years later, when the property was sold, the new owners tore out the storm cellar. They found the steps intact. At the bottom, carved into the concrete in uneven, childish handwriting, were dozens of tallies. And one final sentence: "Next time wait for smaller." I was 13 when my parents decided I didn't need a babysitter anymore. By then we'd moved farther south, outside a town called Refugio, where the land dips into marsh and the air always smells faintly of salt and decay. Our house sat on short stilts to keep it above floodwater, and when the tide was high, the ground beneath turned black and slick, swallowing sound. I hated that house. It made noises that didn't match its age, groans too deep, whispers that slid through the vents. At night, the floorboards creaked beneath my bed as if something underneath was shifting its weight, trying to remember how to stand. The first night alone was supposed to be easy, just a few hours while my parents went to Corpus Christi for dinner. I ordered pizza, locked the doors, and kept every light on. At 8:36 p.m., something knocked on the underside of the house. Not hard, just enough to be noticed. The sound echoed up through the beams, a hollow thud that vibrated the floor. I stood in the kitchen, heart racing, staring at the trapdoor that led beneath the house. My father had warned me never to open it, said animals got stuck down there, said it wasn't safe. The knocking came again. This time it moved, a slow pattern, traveling from one side of the house to the other, like someone tapping along the supports, counting steps. I backed away, every instinct screaming to run, but there was nowhere to go. The marsh pressed close around the house, dark and endless. The lights flickered. From beneath the floor, a voice rose, distorted by wood and distance. "Is it your turn?" I didn't answer. The trapdoor handle twitched. Then the smell hit me. Brackish water, rot, and something sweet underneath, like meat left too long in the sun. The knocking stopped. Something heavy dragged itself across the underside of the house, beams groaning as weight shifted upward. I heard wet hands slapping against wood, searching for purchase. The air vents began to breathe, in and out, in and out. Each exhale carried whispers, names, mine included. The TV turned off by itself. Every light followed. In the darkness, the trapdoor burst open. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the road, screaming into the night. My parents found me there hours later, covered in mud, shaking uncontrollably. They never asked what I saw. Years later, after the house was condemned due to foundation damage, workers reported something strange beneath it. The support beams were carved with marks, handholds, Leading up. I was 9 when my parents left me alone for the first time in a house that didn't believe in being empty. We lived near a dying oil town west of Odessa, the kind of place where pumpjacks nodded day and night like they were agreeing to something no one else could hear. Our house sat on the edge of a dry arroyo, a shallow cut in the land that filled only during heavy rains. Most of the year it was just cracked earth and shadows that didn't quite line up with the sun. My parents were only going to be gone for the evening. Dinner with friends. Back before midnight, they reminded me not to go near the back bedroom. The door stuck, they said. The floor sagged. That wasn't the real reason. The moment the house settled into their absence, I felt it. A subtle shift, like a muscle relaxing. The air cooled. The sounds outside dulled. Even the pumpjacks seemed farther away. I watched TV until the laughter tracks started sounding wrong. Too slow, too stretched. I shut it off and the silence rushed in, thick and waiting. At 8:19 p.m., I heard breathing. Not mine. It came from the hallway, slow and measured. Each inhale followed by a faint clicking sound, like teeth touching. I stood up slowly, heart pounding, and listened. The breathing stopped. The back bedroom door creaked. I hadn't heard it open, just the hinge settling, wood complaining softly. A shadow spilled into the hallway, long and uneven, reaching farther than it should have given the angle of the light. Something stepped out. It didn't walk like a person. Its joints bent too many times before committing to a step. Its head brushed the ceiling, then tilted sideways, studying the house like it was remembering where things were. It spoke in a voice that sounded like it had been practiced. "Too big," it said. It moved closer. Each step made the floor dip, boards bowing under weight that didn't match its shape. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. From the hallway it laughed. A quiet, please sound. "You grew," it said. "That happens." The lights flickered. The back bedroom door slammed shut. I locked myself in the bathroom and sat in the tub, knife clenched to my chest. I heard it moving through the house, touching walls, opening cabinets, testing doors. Paused outside the bathroom. Something slid under the door. A finger, gray, smooth, the nail worn flat like it had been used to dig. It withdrew slowly. "I'll wait," it whispered. The breathing returned, but now it came from everywhere. The vents, the walls, the floor beneath me. My parents came home early to find the bathroom door warped outward. Deep impressions pressed into it from the other side. The back bedroom door was gone. Not open. Gone. Years later, when the house was demolished, they found a narrow room behind that bedroom wall. Just tall enough to stand. Just wide enough to wait. I was 11 when my parents decided I could handle being alone after dark, but only if I stayed inside and only until 10. We lived near Caddo Lake, on the Texas-Louisiana line, where the trees grow straight out of the water and the fog doesn't behave like fog elsewhere. It moves with purpose there. It gathers. It waits. Our house sat on a narrow strip of land, half surrounded by swamp. At night, the water reflected the sky so perfectly it felt like the world continued beneath your feet. My parents warned me not to go near the back porch after sunset. They said people got lost out there, said sound carried wrong. They left at 6:40 p.m. By 7, the fog rolled in. It crept up from the water in slow sheets, pressing against the windows, swallowing the porch light until it became a dull, floating glow. I turned on every light in the house and sat cross-legged on the couch, pretending the TV laughter didn't sound hollow. At 7:22, someone knocked on the back door. One knock. Pause. Two more. I froze. No one visited us unannounced. Ever. I crept to the window and peeled back the curtain just enough to look. There was a boy standing on the porch. He looked about my age. Barefoot. Mud streaked up his legs. His clothes hung wrong on him, like they belonged to someone else. His face was pale, eyes too dark, fixed on the door with an expression that wasn't impatience or fear. It was expectation. I shook my head silently and stepped back. The knocking came again, louder this time. "Please," the boy said. His voice didn't come from his mouth. It came from behind me. I spun around, heart slamming into my ribs. The living room was empty. The voice came again, closer now, almost whispering in my ear. "Open it." The back door handle rattled violently, then stopped. Through the window, I saw the boy smile. His mouth stretched too wide, skin pulling tight around his cheeks. The fog thickened, seeping through the cracks in the door, rolling across the floor. Like something alive, footsteps squelched on the porch. Then inside the house, wet, bare, slow. I ran to my parents' bedroom and locked the door, crawling under the bed, holding my breath. I could hear it moving through the house, boards creaking, water dripping steadily onto the floor. It hummed softly, a childish tune broken and off-key. The bedroom door opened. I saw feet stop inches from my face. Muddy, twisted, one foot bent backward at the ankle. The humming stopped. "You stayed," it said, pleased. "Good." Something reached under the bed. Cold fingers wrapped around my wrist. Then headlights swept through the fog. The grip loosened. When my parents burst into the room, I was screaming, my wrist bruised purple with fingerprints that didn't match any human hand. We moved a month later. Years afterward, I asked my father why he never checked the back porch that night. He told me he did. He said there were dozens of footprints leading from the water to the door, and none of them led back. I was 10 the night it first came through the window. We lived in a small farmhouse outside Jefferson, Texas, on the outskirts of a forest that locals said had been haunted for generations. The house was old, wood warped from years of rain and heat, floorboards that sank when you stepped in the wrong place, windows that rattled for no reason. My parents worked late that night at the mill, leaving me with strict instructions. Stay in the living room, lights on, TV loud, don't go into the hall. I obeyed at first. The evening started normally. Microwave dinner, cartoons, the hum of the ceiling fan. I felt the usual sense of pride in being responsible. But responsibility is a fragile thing for a child. One slip, one misstep, and you realize you're very small in a very big house that can move around while you're not looking. The first oddity was the sound of breathing. Not from anywhere I could see, not human, not animal. Deep, slow. Coming from the window in the corner, the one I'd always hated because of the way it fogged at night. I told myself it was wind, the house settling, anything but the truth. At 8:47 p.m., a shadow appeared. At first, it was small, just a flicker at the edge of the curtain. Then it grew, tall, wrongly shaped, limbs that bent in angles that made your eyes ache trying to understand. His head tilted slowly, deliberately, pressed against the glass, just on the outside, where I couldn't reach, and stared at me. I screamed. The sound didn't echo. It swallowed itself, absorbed by the house. When I dared to look again, the shadow was gone. I tried to call my parents. No dial tone. The landline was dead. Then I heard it in the hallway. Slow, dragging footsteps, bare feet, too quiet to startle, too deliberate to be accidental. It passed the living room, circled around the kitchen, paused outside the bathroom. Something was learning the house, mapping it while I hid. I locked myself in the bathroom. The door rattled from the hallway. Fingers, impossibly long and thin, traced the cracks in the wood. A voice hissed, almost indistinct. "You're not supposed to be awake." I clutched my knees and shut my eyes. The air thickened, heavy with the smell of wet dirt and metal. Something pressed close to the bathroom wall, cold enough to make my skin crawl, as if it could sense every heartbeat, every shallow breath. The TV flickered on in the living room. I could see the glow under the door. The static formed shapes that looked like me, sitting under the blanket, wide-eyed, terrified. I watched my own reflection twitch in ways I did not. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I could only watch as the door bowed inward slightly, almost testing. At midnight, the house fell silent. The shadow was gone. The footsteps were gone. The TV remained dark. The phone finally hummed with a dial tone. I waited until my parents returned hours later, eyes hollow, trembling, refusing to explain. Decades later, I learned the truth. The previous owner had left suddenly, never speaking of why. Neighbors whispered of children who had gone missing in the area. Under the house, in a hidden crawlspace I'd never dared approach, they found small handprints pressed into the dirt. Not adult, not animal, but human, and etched beside them, scratched roughly. The house is hungry when no one watches. I still hear footsteps sometimes, even in my apartment, even in the city, when the wind presses just right against the windows. The house taught me something. Being alone is not about doors or locks. It's about waiting, and it waits. I was 12 the first time I realized that being alone isn't about doors or locks. It's about who's already inside. We live just outside Lufkin, deep in East Texas, where the pines grow thick and the air smells like wet bark and decay. Our house was one of those split levels built in the 70s, with narrow staircases and an attic that smelled of mothballs and dust. It wasn't haunted, not officially, but the neighborhood kids whispered about it anyway. They said if you stayed in the attic too long, you'd hear voices that weren't yours. I didn't believe them, not then. My parents left for the evening, Friday night, my first night truly alone. The plan was simple: pizza, TV, lights on, bedtime at 10. I was careful. I did everything right. The first thing I noticed was the ticking. Not the clock, not the microwave, something else. Slow, deliberate, echoing from the attic above. I paused the TV. The ticking continued. I held my breath, listening. Each tick was heavier than the last, like something large moving carefully across the boards. At 8:13 p.m., the attic door creaked. It hadn't moved before. It had no reason to. The handle twitched once, twice. Then it stopped. I stared at it, frozen. The phone rang. I didn't answer. The ticking sped up. A dragging sound followed it, slow at first, then faster, like nails scraping across wood. Then came the whispering, quiet, unintelligible at first, just the breath of someone speaking behind walls. The pitch shifted until words became clear. Come, up. I froze. Couldn't. I wouldn't. The house seemed to lean inward, pressing me down. The floorboards warped beneath my feet as if testing my weight. The TV clicked off. The attic door rattled. Then the whispering came from the stairs, closer now, inside my bedroom. You're here. You're alone. I ran to the living room and tried the front door. Locked. Back door. Locked. Every window. Locked. The house had sealed itself. I could hear the attic floorboards creak again, pacing above me, circling, waiting. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed to the attic stairs, thinking somehow, somewhere, I could confront it. The air grew cold, each breath fogging faintly in the beam. The smell hit me then, wet dirt, mold, something like iron and decay. The stairs groaned under my weight. Halfway up, I saw the shadows. Figures pressed against the walls, tall, thin, children. Their eyes were hollow, empty sockets that reflected the light. They didn't move, but I felt them watching, following, calculating. A hand reached from the corner of the attic. Long, thin, pale, and curling like it had grown in the dark. It didn't pull me. It didn't push. It only touched, brushing against my arm. I shot through my veins. I stumbled back. The attic door slammed shut behind me. Not a breeze. Not a hand I could see. Just slammed. The whispers multiplied. Children laughing and crying at the same time. Voices overlapping, echoing through the walls, through the floor, through the very air. I ran down the stairs, but the house had changed. The hallway stretched impossibly long. The living room was bigger. Shadows moved along the walls, detaching themselves from any source. I could feel them pressing toward me, heavy and patient. When my parents came home hours later, I was in the foyer, staring at the floor. The house looked normal. Too normal. No attic creaks. No shadows. No whispers. But I knew. Years later, after we sold the house, the new owners tore the attic floorboards out. They found dozens of small indentations pressed into the wood. Handprints, fingerprints, shallow scratches. And in the center of the attic, Carved roughly into the beams were two words: "Stay with US." I still dream of that attic. I can still hear the ticking, slow, deliberate, patient. It follows me, waiting for the next time I'm alone.